Hello, 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 Crafty Chris here, working on a winter layout. I'm past Christmas now, decided to move on to using up some of my old paper. This is from a line called Fancy Pants. Timber Grove is the name of the paper. It's ancient, so I want to use up a little bit of it here. To create a winter layout. Now I did a rough sketch to give you sort of a sense of where I'm heading with this. It will make probably no sense to you until I start cutting it out and you start seeing what I do with it. So it is a window. It's as if we're looking out a window into a winter scene. So I haven't got all the details in, but I have done some interesting techniques in terms of using Stickles, glossy accents, Nuvo, jewel drops, and I'm going to be also using some modeling paste and stuff on the background. So and some acetate, which I normally don't use, but it's going to be the glass in my layout. So anyway, without further ado, let's get cutting. So it is going to be a 2-page layout. I'm starting with the base of white because it's a winter scene. It's easier just to go up from there. I'm not a big fan of textured cardstock, so I am using the opposite side, and I am measuring out a couple of things. So I'm going to have draperies on either side of the layouts, and they are going to measure 4 inches wide altogether, but I'm going to be cutting them and overlapping them. So I need to make, let's see, I'm going to make 4 3/4 inch slices first and then cut them down to size. Let me just figure out my math on that, make sure that I've got, it doesn't matter. All right, cutter. This paper's a little bit heavier, so I'm going to use my big cutter. And I'm going to, I did some testing down here and I'll explain what that's about afterwards, but I don't want to use that side, so it doesn't really matter which direction my dots go in. So I'm going to cut 4.5 and 4.5, one for each side of the page. Alright, so I have half an inch to play with, and I have 4 sides. So they're each going to be 1/8 of an inch longer. Alrighty, so I'm going to cut 1 inch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, that works out. 1 inch and 1/8 wide. Luckily I have a guide at the top and bottom. So this is my first cut. Second cut is going to be 0.5. Actually, I'm going to do that all together. I'm going to do 2 0.5s and then cut it in half. So I'm going to do a cut of 1 1.25 inches. And then I'm going to split that in half, because my cutter doesn't give me a 1/2 inch. So I'm just on the back going to jot the halfway point. So 1 1/4 is 1/2 and 1/8. There we go. Sorry, just want to make sure I get that in the right spot. There we go. All right, now I can line up my dots that I just made and cut it accurately. There we go. So that's 2 halves. So I have 1 and then another one. And now I need another 1 inch half cut. or actually 1 1/8 inch cut. Make sure I don't make a mistake on that. Okay, that goes there, and then I have this half, and then I need a 1 1/8, which is what's left. So there we go. There are our pieces for that side. So again, cutting 1 1/8. And then 1 1/4, because I'm going to cut that in half. Make sure I get that lined up. And now I'm going to cut this in half. There we go. There we go. There we go. So I'm cutting this in half. If you have an easier way to do it, you use what you would like to use. This is how my brain works, so it's what works for me. Okay, so that's 1 1/4. There's that half piece. Now I need another 1 1/8. There we go. Put that in the center. And then this should be my piece at the end. Perfect. All right. Now, these are going to be drapes overlapping each other, and the smaller pieces are going to be darker. So I did some tests on here trying to find a gray that I had in my stash that would darken it with a more natural look than if I, had used pencil or something. So these are all distress colors. I've got, what's that one? Iced spruce, weathered wood, hickory smoke, and stormy sky. I find that these two are too blue, and this one is a little too warm or a green. So I'm going to go with hickory smoke. And I'm literally just going to take my dye or my ink, get all my smaller pieces here, and I'm going to run the ink right over top of it and just build up layers. This paper unfortunately has a little bit of smoothness to it, so it doesn't suck up the ink in the way you would really want it to do, but it's going to tuck underneath. There we go. Okay, and you can see that there is quite a difference between the two. So this is going to be sort of the shadow in the drapery. Just make sure I get it as even as I can. There's one. And I have ink on here, so I'm just going to rub this guy and pick up all that excess ink. And it takes a few minutes to do this, so I am probably going to fast forward this. Now you have to get all of the ink off your fingers, otherwise you're going to be transferring gray to your layout, and I don't think you really want to do that. So make sure you get all that stuff off. I usually add it to my paper towels that I'm going to use for my junk journal anyway. All right, so let's get this back on the table. So we are going to measure 1 inch in, top and bottom. Now I'm going to grab a pencil instead of a pen. Just put a 1 inch mark there. It won't be seen, so you don't have to worry. Okay, and I'm going to line up my first strip with that. So I'm lining it up with my pencil line at the top and the bottom. I think I may turn my paper around so I can see more clearly. There and there. There we go. There's my first line. Now I'm going to take a 1 inch or 1 1/8 inch strip and lay that over top. Oh yes, sorry, this is a 1 inch strip. I forgot I left that as a 1 inch strip. Okay. So we are going to change that measurement. No worry, you don't see any of it anyway. Where did I just put my ruler? There we go. And we're going to make this 7/8 instead. So 7/8 instead. Okay. There we go. All right. Now we take our winch and it's going to go right along the edge, all the way up, overlapping by 1/8 of an inch. All right, there we go. So now you can see the difference in the tones. Then we're going to take another one of our 1 1/8 inch strips, and we're just going to slightly overlap it. About a 1/16 of an inch on each end. Okay, something like that. All right, and then we're taking our next paper and we're going to butt up against that, right side by side. Okay, and then taking one of our, whoops, that's a little too bright, 1 1/8 inch strips, and we're going to go over about 1/8 of an inch. You can kind of use whatever your pattern is. Now that should end up approximately 4 inches. So let's see how we did there. This is 4 1/8 inches. And this is 4 1/8 inches. I think I need to bring this just a little more over so that it has about the same, looks like 1, 2, 3 and a bit. So 1, that's the bit. 1, 2, 3. There we go. I'm not really liking how those stripes are sort of matching, so I'm just going to flip it over. And then the stripes, or the dots, are off just a little. And let's see how we're doing with that measurement. Now we're at pretty much 4. Okay. All right, so that's one side. The drapery's on one side. Now we're going to repeat that, but do the opposite on the other side. I'll just put that up there for now. Find my smallest piece, which is this one. Get it ready to go down. It's going to go down second. So it's ready. Get one of these pieces ready to go. Doesn't need a lot of adhesive. All right. And we're going to measure 7/8. So there's 7/8. And there's 7/8. Okay, and we're going to put this guy on the right hand side of that dot and line it up. There we go. Then we're going to put this guy right at the edge all the way up. There we go. Now we take one of the wider 1 inch and a bit strips, and we are going to do about 1/16 of an inch on there. So you want a little bit of the existing pattern to come out. And then we're going to butt this one up like we did on the other side. And then cross the final one over at a tape runner. Go around 1/8 covering it, and that's not lining up, so I don't mind that. There we go. So on either side now we have our drapery. Okay, now in the centerpiece we're going to imagine our window. So let me cut up the window pieces so that we can see what is going to be going on out the window, because we have to do some prep on that first. So according to my layout here, the crossbars of the window are going to be 1 inch, and the sides on either side that are underneath, supposedly underneath the drapery, are going to be 1/2 inch, and then the pieces in the center are going to be 1/2 inch. So all my vertical pieces I am going to cut first, and they're going to be long vertical pieces, full 12-inch pieces. And then the other ones, we're going to measure the difference, because I didn't take a concrete measurement, because now I have to look at how these are laying out. And we will cut those longwise as well, but they will end up going side to side. So, starting off, I need 1, 2, 3, 4 half-inch vertical pieces. And as I said, I cannot make a half-inch cut on this particular piece of paper, or this particular cutter, so I'm doing 2 inches, because that's 4 half-inch pieces all together, and then I'm just going to cut it back. So there's 1, there's 2, and then there's 3. And this is basically just going to be in half, and I should probably measure it instead of guessing. There's 1 inch. So a half inch is right there, and right there. Put this up so I can see what I'm doing. There. And there we go. And there's our 2 other half-inch pieces. And now I'm going to lay those down and take the measurements for the crossbars. So we're having 1 goes here. 2, I kind of wanted the 2 in the center to actually have the patterns matching, and I think I've messed these all up. I guess it really doesn't matter. They don't have to match. 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so that is what we are working with. And if I can just get my sketch out from under here. Then we're going to do 1 inch pieces that go across. And they are going to be dependent on the space that's in there. I'm having a 1 inch piece as the piece that anchors the whole page, but I'm not putting that at the top because I'm going to be putting some icicles there. Alrighty, so we are now cutting, let's see how much we need to do here. So we have 1, 2, 3 1 inch pieces, and their measurements are going to be 6 13/16 there. A little wider at the top. That sounds strange. Okay, let's do one at a time. I can't glue these down just yet because I have to do the background first. So this is 6 13/16 are the first 1 inch piece I'm going to make. So it's 1 inch thick, and then we'll do the cut. Actually, let's see what the widest is, and this way I can maybe save a little bit of paper and not cut it all into strips. Trying to save as much as we can. That's about the same, 13/16. Okay. So 4 inches wide is what I'm going to cut because it's, or no, 3 inches wide is what I need. 1, 2, 3 inches wide. 3 inches wide is what I'm going to cut first. There we go. And then I'm going to cut 6 13/16. Your measurement may be different. And 13/16. So 13/16. All right, there we go. And now I can use this for some other piece. And then I can cut this into 3 1-inch pieces. And it should all fit. Okay, let's see how that looks. So put this together. We have one at the base. There we go. One in the center. There you go. Whoop. 2 in the centers. We'll figure out what those measurements are when we put it all together. Something like that. Alright, so there's our window frame. So that's good for this side. We'll keep this all off to the side here because we have to still treat this page. And now we're going to figure out this side. Okay. And whichever is the biggest measurement is the one we're going to use for the cutting. So this is 7 inches. And this is, ooh, that's less than 7 inches. How did I manage to get that really off whack? So we'll cut 7 inches. And then we'll adjust. We need 3 inches long, or wide rather. And 7 inches long. This little piece will be a mat for some other project, and we'll cut 1 inch increments. Two and 3. All right. And now we have our 3 pieces for this side as well. Okay. So let's put those aside. So what we have to do now is create the winteriness that's going to be the background. So I'm just going to pause and grab my materials for that. Okay, so I am going to be using white modeling paste, and I'm just going to mark a 1/2 inch border very, very lightly because I don't want to go underneath the wood. In a thick way. So I'm just going to have a light draw a light line there so I'm aware of where that border is. And now I'm also going to draw lines where these guys are going to go. One goes on the bottom, so I want to make sure that I don't go beyond that, and if I do it very thinly. It's kind of hard to control sometimes once you start. And then I don't want to make this necessarily even, because in my drawing I have it close to the top. So I'm going to give it a 2-inch drop. There we go. So 2-inch drop, mark there. Okay, so that's where the top of that will go. And then I need a 1-inch drop for the actual piece. Just very lightly. And then I'm going to divide this space. This is, let's say, the better part of 8 inches. So 4 is going to be the halfway point. And I'm going to do a 1/2 inch on one side of 4 and a 1/2 inch on the other side of 4. Do the same up here. There we go. And it doesn't mean that the paste isn't going to get under there, it just means that we're going to try to avoid it being thick as we're putting it down elsewhere. Okay, so that's basically our window. So now I get modeling paste, and I'm just going to try to sort of smear it on. I'm leaving the top section because that's where my horizon is going to be. But I want to kind of just smear this so that I can give it some texture. And because it is not white like the background, I do have to get it as close to that line as possible, as long as I make it thin. Where that line is. So I just pretty much just scrape it back. And you can manipulate this for a little while before it dries. Just make sure I've got it. And you can put more than one layer on there too. So I'm going to clean off. And now I'm just going to get a little bit more. And I don't want it too thick, because I'm also going to put some matte or some crackling paste on it. So just kind of giving it a little bit of texture there. So it looks like snow. I don't know if you can see it, but there you go. A little bit of texture. It's not thick. You can mound it a little if you want to have things that look like snow mounds. Just be careful not to make it too thick. And I'm just going to get a little bit near the edge there. Okay. Oh, I forgot I got a 1/2 inch down here I have to be careful of. So let me scrape that clear. Should have measured that. Okay, now I'm going to move down and do the same thing at the bottom, but this one I want to be thicker. So first we're going to get it right up to the edges of where our frame is going to be, our window frame, so that we know that the color is going to be similar. And then we can build it up. Make sure you take away anything that's underneath. Okay, now this one we're going to build up a little bit thicker because we want that snow to really have some depth. Because it's closer to the window. Almost like you're icing a cake in a way. Okay, so we have it thinner on the top and thicker on the bottom. And we tried to maintain our areas where we are going to have paper. Okay. Now, we're going to let that dry for a minute or two while we work on the other one. Now remember to keep your pieces, because we measured the sides with the original. And it's best if you can let that sit flat. It's going to buckle, but we're going to do some heat gun to it to flatten it out a little bit more. And once you get the paper and the acetate on there, it'll be fine. Okay, so again, ½ inch down either side. And one inch. And here I was giving 2 inches and then 1 inch. And then between here it was 8 inches. So I'm just kind of doing this as I go. So here is, and then we have to do our ½ inch down here. All right, because this is the one we forgot. I cannot do it in this direction. I have to flip it over so that this is on the other side, but this is just for me to do. Oh, that means I've done my parts wrong here, so I'll get my eraser out. I was repeating it exactly, but I have to have the window on the other side. Good thing I didn't go too far with that. Okay, so we're 1 inch from the bottom for our first one, and we're 2 inches from the top, and then 1 inch down there, and then between here and there, it's more or less 8 inches, so we do 4 and a half inch on the other side of the 4. So 1 inch here, 2 inches here, and then between here and here, oh, that should be 1 inch down, and then between here and here should be 8 inches. Then I'm doing it 3.5 inches and 4.5 inches, and that should give me all my lines I need. Make sure they're all even. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So now this is a copy of what we have done on this side. Okay. So now, if you want to have sort of to balance things out, it's a good idea to have this sitting somewhere so you can kind of look at it and see what thickness you use. So remember, we're going to cover the whole paper first with a thin coat so that everything is the same color, because it's not quite as white as the paper is. Scrape off all the excess. Once you have it mostly covered, scrape off the extra. Okay. Now we can just build it up just a little, not a lot, because it is in the distance. Just kind of get things flowing in different puddles. Maybe just a touch more in here. And now this one at the bottom we're going to do more thickly, but again we have to cover everything first. Everything gets a thin cover, and then we build it up. Clean it up a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now deepen your pot. And now you're going to lay out these smoldering hills of snow. Think of nice thick icing when you're doing this. Try to cover any sort of... There we go. Cleaning it up. Okay, and when I'm finished using, I have this peel and press stuff. It's sticky on one side, and that's what I use to cover up my modeling paste, and I actually let it go down inside the tube, or inside the bottle, and touch the medium, and then you just poke down to get all the air out, and that's what keeps it from drying out. Okay, so that's how I keep using it. And now I've got to wash my hands off. I'll just leave this here for a moment, and I had a tissue somewhere. There it is. Just wipe your hands off. You don't want any weight transferring anywhere. Okay, so now let's do some drying. Let's move our media out of the way. Put both pieces down. Remember which pieces go to which side. And now we're just going to do a quick hit of dry on here. And once the surface is dry, then you can flip it over and heat it from the back, and it helps to flatten it out. But once you get everything on there, it flattens anyway. And once it's in your page protector, you won't notice. And the thicker obviously takes longer to dry to touch. I think this stuff is already almost dry. Yep. Okay, I will fast forward this so you don't have to watch this forever. Okay, so now I'm just going to carefully move my pieces off. And I'm going to dry the back side, because where it hits the paper will hold the moisture. So you want to make sure you get some dry on the back side too. And how you know things are getting pretty good is when you touch the paper and it's warm. If it's still cold after, like if I were to touch it, I can still feel the coldness. That means that I still need to do some drying. So I am going to come back when this is dried up. It will take about 10 minutes. Okay, so now I have finished drying it for the most part. It will be better if it's left overnight to completely dry. And now we're going to put our next layer on, which is our crackle paste. Excuse me a moment while I find a spot. So with the crackle paste, you want it to be fairly thick. I have clear translucent crackle paste. And what it's going to do is take this sort of matte finish and shine it up a little. Plus it's going to crackle in places. So I'm literally just smoothing it right over top thickly. So I'm leaving a layer of it. And I don't need to have it everywhere. And it has a life of its own. It will crackle wherever it feels like. So don't worry about trying to control it. And just play till you have sort of a nice even layer. Again, if you have some that's gone into your lines, pull it out and do the top and the bottom. And you'll notice that your paper is giving your snow mounds a bit of character because it's actually buckling a little bit like snow would, like, you know, kind of moundy. I'm going to put that down there. Okay. And then thicker at the bottom, because that's closer. And you really want to see that crackle happen. And it does take a longer time to dry than the other. There's two trains of thought as to whether you should just let this stuff dry naturally or add heat to it. If it dries too quickly, you find that you get crackles that are maybe a little bit finer than the big crunchy crackles. It's up to you, whatever it is you want to see. Okay. This is something you can do before you go to dinner, and then go to dinner, and you'll start seeing the effects of it when you come back. And the crackly just kind of gives it that icy effect. It's like an all-over icy effect. Very different than the technique I'm going to show you for creating the pond. That's going to be. Alright. And again, just kind of get all that stuff down into the bottom of your pot. Try not to leave any. There you go. So you have very little left on your spatula that will need cleaning. And then you're going to touch your wrap into the pot to create the connection and push all that air out. There you go. And sometimes as you get deeper in, you might want to get a larger piece of that sticky paper stuff. Alright, so I am not going to crackle, or I'm not going to heat gun this. I'm going to let it dry. So I will see you shortly. Now that we have the dried snow, we're going to work with the sky. And the sky is pretty simple to do. We'll do one at a time. I've got stormy sky and weathered wood. And I'm going to start with the darker one, which is stormy sky. And I'm just going to literally, as soon as I get some on my, I'm just going to, I don't mind if I go over my lines here because, oh, it's not coming out very much. There we go. So I'm just literally putting the color right onto the cardstock. And I'm doing the dark one in the background first in circular motions so it gives it a little bit of life. You might have to go over it a couple of times to get the density that you're looking for. You want to make sure that it's dense right where the wood is going to show. And then just billowy. There we go. And now I'm going to switch. Just take a piece of paper towel, wipe off anything that might be left on the and starting from the top and going down. Like I said, just kind of blending them together, giving it that smoky, wintry look. Blending the two colors together. There we go. Make sure you've got it more or less even at the sides there. Okay, that's one side done. do the same for the other side. I'm not doing it super dark, just it's supposed to just be sort of a vague representation. This isn't supposed to be life. There we go. Sure I've got there we go. And then final phase. Here's the gray. Just need a little bit more hickory here. There we go. Sorry, I'm just filing, but just a little more feeling there. There we go. Okay. I'll wash that better afterwards, but to get most of it out now while I can. Put those to the side. Spray down my mat with some water. And clean up a little bit. So. Alright. Make sure it's dry. Okay. So then, bringing everything back. So now we are going to pop dot the acetate and then put the wood on top of that. But first we have to put down this little pond. So my pond is going to sit over the 2 pages, but I kind of want to spare it. So I'm going to cut it with some scissors. Maybe it's better if I just do this over here so I can see what I'm doing. So I want to cut it in half. And if you watch to the end of the video, you'll see how I've made my icy pond. I'm going to cut it in half. I'm afraid to cut it in quarters because it may not stay together too well. It might end up more problem than not. So if I have the icy pond, I can either have it down here in the bottom edge. So my icy pond, you can't really see it, but it's there. Maybe I'll do it on the top one because the bottom is very crackled. I'll have the pond out here. There we go. That's what we'll do. So our pond is going to be out there, and you'll see how that's done at the end of the video. And I'm going to glue those two pieces down. All right. Now once I get the acetate on there, I can't really do anything else. So I want to make sure that I have any details that I want to add into the sky or whatever. Has to all be done before I put the acetate down. I want to make sure the tips get enough glue so they stick well. And probably need a little bit there too. Alrighty. Now we flip this over, and I'm just going to line up the edges with the edge of the paper. Adjusting as I go. There we go. Oops. And this quick stick glue I have. And I'm just going to do a little bit of detail drawing on here so it stands up a bit better. There we go. My glue off my mat. And I'm going to get a super fine pen. And I'm just going to lightly outline the pond. So it's easy to see. Alright. So that just gives us an eyeball view of where the pond is. And I am going to try to align it with the other side, even though there's a ½ inch difference, or an inch difference in each side. Okay. Let's get the glue on first. Just doing very light gluing, dotting if you want to dot. You just kind of scrape the glue thing across whatever I'm trying to glue. There we go. And I'm going to look at my other piece to see where my bottom and my top start. Stand it up there. Okay, so the top is about there. Is that there? And the bottom is about there. I just press that down. Make sure it sticks. Get my pen again. Put my stopper in my glue. And just go lightly. Around the edge. There we go. So our pond is up in the top of the property, out the window. Okay, now if you want to put the odd bird in there, just to give a little bit of an idea of there being something in the sky. And now it's time to put down our acetate. Now, first thing we're going to do is build where our acetate is going to go. Because the acetate is the window, the glass in the window. So I'm just putting down one long piece of foam tape. I'm going to do it down the center of where the panels are going to be for the window frame. This is all just to give it support. Okay. There we go. And on the bottom here. Okay. Now placing the acetate, let's first get it cut. Any kind of acetate is fine for this. This actually almost fits perfectly. So you want it to match up at the top for sure, because there's nothing supporting it at the top. I might have to put, oh yeah, we have a 1/2 inch. I forgot. So that's exactly what this could be. 1/2 inch. Because we do have the piece of frame that goes down. That I keep forgetting about. So there we go. It's too bad that I'm covering that up. I should have planned that a little better. All right. So now, I'm going to put the acetate. Start on one side, starting at the very top, aligning with the top of the page. And I'm going to put that down. There we go, so we're anchored. I just want to make sure that we're keeping it straight all the way down, because you don't want this to pull too much. There we go. So I can kind of give it a good stick there. Alright, so now we have our reflective glass that is our outer shell. It's a little bit too big, so we're going to trim that down. Okay, there we go. A little buckly here because the paper was buckly. That's okay. Alright, now let's get our pieces on. And this we can just put right on top. And we want more glue than less glue because it's going on to the acetate. So here's first. There we go. There's the other frame. On that side. And this is the outer frame on the inside. There we go. Now we're going to put our bars across. This is going to go right up. There we go. Cut right in as well. Right along the bottom like that. And there's our window looking out into the world. Okay, so now in terms of how I was planning to lay out the pictures, I have 4x6 pictures. I was planning to have a 4x6 picture there, 3x3s here, and then a 4x3 picture at the bottom. So that's my layout for one side. I'm going to use repositionable tape for this. I'm just going to have that crossover like that. And I still have some icicles to put across the top here. So I'm just going to sort of center these guys. Like that. And there's our window, and these have been drying, so I hope that they will peel off as I have planned. Okay, so the icicles are peeling off one at a time. Maybe I'll try the thicker ones. There we go. Oh. So that's not successful. Okay. I won't show you that video. So we are going to just put some stickles. And I'm going to prop this open because I probably should have done it beforehand. I was hoping that my pre-doing them would make a difference. So I'm just running a bead of, I'm using Stardust. I'm just running a bead across the top here. And then I am just going to kind of create an icicle edge to the top of the frame. So it looks like it's on the outside. And as we know, this dries flat, so it's not going to interfere with anything that we've done previously. And just want to keep that propped open for it to dry. So you can see this icicle edge that I've created, and that will be under the glass. And then we're just going to, in the corners, put a tiny drop of frost and smudge it. There we go. So we get that the look of condensation in the windows. You don't want it super thick. We won't worry about it. Well, we can do that one too. Just move this over. Dot there, dot there, dot there, dot there. Maybe I'll move it around with something other than my finger, which is a little too big. I'll use my knife. So then it'll look more angular rather than flat. There we go. And I might want to go over that more than once, because I could probably use a little bit more. Yeah, I'm going to end up going over it again with a little bit more once it's dry and I can see what I have. And that's it for that side. Now let's work on the other side. Now before, first I want to put on my, Stickles first. So I'm running it across the top. And then so now I go back in. I fill those in. And there we go. Now I'm just going to dry that. So it's mostly dry. So I'm just going to have to be a little bit careful when I put the tape down and everything else. So let's get that going. So I'm going to put this down here. Need a little tiny bit more up at the top there. And trim the excess off. This right along the edge. piece along here. Piece along here. As we know, this is really just to keep the acetate from touching on the media that we did. There we go. Alright. It's a bit wobbly, but not horrible. Now, oops, still a fair bit tacky. I'm going to risk it. So let's get another piece of acetate. Oops, 1 or 2 or 3. So, like I said, any kind of acetate will do. If you're doing heat projects, like where you're using the heat gun to warm things or melt things, you want to make sure it's heat resistant. Oh my goodness, come on, get in there. You're okay. You want heat resistant acetate, but otherwise any other kind of acetate will be fine. Now, I think we're going to start. I have to start at the top. So this is going to be tricky, and I may make a mess, but I'm going to give it a try. Oh, I have to do the other side first, because I have to line it up. And I think what I'm going to put here is that, just to give me some height. So I want to make sure I'm lining up with the top and the side. There we go. There. And roll it over to the other side. Being careful not to stick it into the yeah, this is not such a good plan. Too short. There we go. There we go. And I did stick it in there, but not too badly, so it's all going to be good. And once you get it in the page protectors, it will keep it nice and flat. And we're going to trim off the excess. Alright. And we're going to put down our wood pieces. There we go. There's our first piece. Just try to make sure if you have any adhesive overhanging that you try to get that. Sorry, I have to see what I'm doing here. I'm sticking my head out. Maybe into the screen. There we go. And then our crossbars. And we're doing the same aligning of pictures on this side. Stick that underneath there. This was the side that was a little bit larger, so that's okay. I'm just going to tuck that under here. Okay. And our final one. Goes here. Now that it gets tucked under here. There we go. And there we have this side finished with your scenery. Oops. Alrighty. And we're going to put our dots in the corner. I'm going to put a little bit more on this side. There we go. Get a spatula. Push it into the corner. And drag it out the edges. Just get off the wood. Oops. There we go. Get it off the wood. This is fussy, but it looks very cool. There we go. There we go. These are the last steps. There we go. Okay, so we have our frosty around the windows on the inside, our icicles on the outside. Don't know if you can see that at all. And then we're going to lay out our photos again. Just put it out here. So we'll have a 4x6, which we have to wait until the icicles melt to put that on. We have a 4x3. And then we have 3x3s. Now, as far as decorating this, you can decorate it with ornaments. If you're using this as a winter scene, you can decorate it with snowflakes or whatever, like an indoor, like you would in the inside of your home if you're decorating for winter. And so that would be completely up to you. Even if you wanted to go a step further on the side, on one side, rather than having the 3x3 photos here, you could put the edge of a Christmas tree to create the image of a Christmas tree. And so there is your 2-page window layout. And remember that these aren't positioned in the right place, but you have your icy rink in the middle, you have your glitter going on in the corners where the panes of glass would have condensation, you have your sky and your icicles coming off the edge of the paper, and that's it for me. Now stay tuned after I say goodbye, because there will be a video that shows you how to create this little skating rink thing. Alright, have a great crafty day. Bye now. Here I've been playing with a color called Sea Breeze. So it's like a very light blue, and you can pretty much see through it. I have an idea that I want to create. So here's kind of how it looked. And I have an idea that I want to create a winter layout with a pond in it, where you get the sort of swirly, scratchy looking marks that are left over by skaters. So I'm trying to get rid of these little things, as you know. So I'm just going to draw it across my wax paper. I hope I have enough to do a fair size piece. And then I'm going to go around, and you have to make sure that the parts all sort of connect somehow. Let's get like the pond looking piece here. Make sure everything connects. So I'm just using the tip to connect everything. The thicker the better, as it will rip if you pull too hard. Oh, these bottles are so hard to squish. That's another reason why I want to get rid of them. Too hard to squish. Alrighty. And I'm not really concerned if it's floppy or not. Try to keep it thin because of the nature of what I'm trying to do with it. Make sure the parts all cross. I might need a little more. Oh, it is hard to squeeze it out. Sorry, my hand is in your way. There we go. Just thicken that up a little bit. All right. So we have some skate lines that went straight across. Now we're going to have skate lines that go around in circles. And again, this is just all kinds of, let's see. Make sure it touches. There we go. There we go. There we go. And then a few little swirls in certain places. There we go. And I'm just going to add a little attacher bar there. Button that out there. Definitely swirls in the center. There we go. Swirling in the center. It's hard for you to see. Let me get my other piece out of the way. There we go. That's a little easier. And some little mini swirls. Off in other parts. And I just want to flatten that out a little bit. So it's kind of sketchy. All right. Yeah, I'm running out. But you get the idea. So this is going to be another sketchy little bit here. Alrighty, so I'm going to leave that to dry for 12 hours. And then it will end up looking like this, like sea glass. That's very see-through. So my white paper underneath will show through on that. So there you go. So just as an update, my icy skating pond looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that.